Welcome, friends of the library. Today is day 4 in a library class, and today I'd like to share with you a story called Douglas, You Need Glasses by Greg Adamson. Nancy and Douglas were chasing squirrels. At least Douglas thought he was chasing squirrels. You see, Douglas had always been a very near-sighted dog. Douglas thinks this is me. His bad eyesight often got in the way of things. He missed important signs like wet cement, skate park, no dogs. Sometimes he even went home to the wrong house. But when a nice, innocent game of fetch ended in disaster, Nancy said, "That's it, Douglas, come with me." "Why are you taking me to a shoe store?" asked Douglas. "Douglas, this is the eye doctor," Nancy said. "He's going to help you." "Now, Douglas," said the eye doctor, "tell me what you see." "Dinosaur," said Douglas. Crab? Flying saucer? Definitely a horse. Another dinosaur. "That one's easy," said Douglas. "It's a squirrel." After the test, the eye doctor showed Douglas a cabinet full of glasses. "Come on, Douglas," said Nancy. "Try some on." At last he found a pair that was just right. Perfect. On the way home, Douglas said, "Wow! Everything looks amazing!" And it was. Real kids wear glasses. That's the story of Douglas, You Need Glasses. Today, our activity requires you to have a piece of paper and something to write with. Just use any scrap paper because all you need is something to count 1 to 12. So if you want to pause the video and run and grab your supplies, that'll be great. Everybody ready? Make sure you've numbered on your paper 1 to 12. I'm going to ask you 12 questions, and you have to write a letter that best describes you next to the number. We're trying to figure out what color is best suited to describe your personality. So question number 1. You feel happiest when A, you have a brilliant new idea, B, you wake up from a great dream, C, you lead your team to win, or D, spending time with friends. Which one of those things makes you feel the happiest? A, having a brilliant new idea, B, waking up from a dream, C, leading your team to win, or D, spending time with friends. Whichever letter best describes you is what you need to write next to number 1. Here's a fact. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous speech in 1963. Do you remember the name of the speech? It's called I Have a Dream. Question number 2. What is your best trait? A, are you optimistic? B, are you imaginative? C, do you have confidence? D, are you generous? Which best describes you? A, optimistic. B, imaginative. C, confident. D, generous. Did you know that Bill Gates is the co-founder of Microsoft? In 1984, he donated $1.5 billion to charity. Question number 3. You would never paint your room A, purple, B, yellow, C, green, or D, orange. Which would you never paint your room? A, purple, B, yellow, C, green, D, orange. Did you know that a rainbow is actually a full circle of light, but when you're looking at it from the ground, we only see the arc? Question 4. Winter break is canceled. You say A, more time with friends at school. B, we'll all get through this. C, why? I'll change their minds. D, well, sometimes these things happen. In 2015, Boston, Massachusetts got over 110 inches of snow. It didn't finish melting until July. Your BFF is sleeping over on Saturday. What are your plans? A, start an art project. B, plan Halloween costumes. C, camp in the backyard. Or D, popcorn and movies. Did you know that Denali National Park has 6 million acres of land for camping? Just watch out for the grizzly bear. The park is home to more than 300 of them. Pick a car. A, a taxi. B, a vintage hot rod. C, a performance sports car. Or D, a luxury sedan. Did you know that the world's largest and most popular car show is held in Frankfurt Motor Show in Germany? Ugh, you failed your biology test. You really need to A, get outside. B, take a nap. C, go for a run. D, call a friend. Biology is the study of living things. The first biologist often studied dead bodies. If you were a bird, you would be A, a parrot, B, a crow, C, a hawk, D, a flamingo. Flamingos are pink because of the algae they eat. Question number 9. What would be the best job in the world for you? A, an app designer. B, a psychologist. C, a coach. D, a surgeon. In 2015, Patriots coach Bill Belichick was ranked top coach in the NFL. He has 4 Super Bowl wins and 12 playoff appearances. Question number 10. How do you greet your friends? A, a giant smile. B, a peace sign. C, a high five. D, a hug. Did you know that hugs raise the levels of serotonin in the brain? That chemical helps you feel happy and loved. Question number 11. Where would you go on a dream vacation? A, Greece. B, India. C, England. D, Japan. The country of Japan is made up of 6,852 islands. Last question, number 12. What would be the perfect school uniform? A, a colorful t-shirt and jeans. B, pajamas with slippers. C, running gear and sneakers. Or D, black tie. 85% of teachers think that school uniforms make students behave better in the classroom. I wonder if that's what your teacher thinks. Here we go. We're done with our quiz. Now you need to tally up your score. Count up all your A's, all your B's, all your C's, and all your D's. What letter do you have the most of? If you have a tie between 2 letters, maybe a little bit of both. And this is what it means. If you had all A's, you're thought of as yellow. You look on the bright side of life. You always feel inspired by the world around you. You have lots of exciting ideas, and you know you can make your dreams come true. Friends think you're cheery and bubbly, but you also have a lot of brain power. If you had more B's, your color is purple. Hello, anyone there? You're always daydreaming. Just tell your teachers you have a big imagination. You love fantasy movies and books. In fact, you knew you would make a great witch or an elf. You're sensitive and wise, and you always see the best in people. C's. If you add all C's, you're red. You're probably the star of a sports team. You care deeply about your team, and you also feel that way about your friends and your future. You're strong, but you have a creative side too. You have energy and confidence that help you in everything you do. If you had more D's, you're blue. You have a peaceful, caring soul. People love being around you. You make them feel calm. You're a generous and loyal friend. Telling a lie makes you uncomfortable. You stay cool in stressful situations. People might say you're too quiet, but you know staying balanced is important. I hope you like this little quiz. We actually have a whole collection of the books in this particular series in the library. So when we get back to school, if you are interested, we can help you locate where they are. Let's get back to our story today of Masters of Disaster. I believe we were at chapter number 5, called The Headless, Blood-Drinking, Flesh-Eating Corpses of Cleveland. It's time, Henry said. I've come up with something really unusual. He was eating pizza with Reed and Riley in his backyard on a Saturday afternoon. Wait, Reed said. Do you think it's time for us to do another project? I still stink from the last 3. I have to sleep in the basement and shower in the wash tub in the laundry room because my mom says my smell is getting in her curtains and her carpeting. I'm not supposed to do anything else interesting until the odor from the last 3 interesting things we've done stops seeping into our walls. I don't even know what that means, but she says I'm bringing down the value of the house and diminishing the equity my parents have built over the years because of how awful I smell. Henry said, nodding but not really listening. I have to sit by an open window in every class, and I can't eat lunch in the cafeteria anymore because the funk that surrounds me makes people sick to their stomachs. The only good thing is that Dwight keeps his distance, which, when you stop to think about it, is almost worse smelling by Baby Judy all the time, and constantly tasting river pee and always stinking like sludge. Mystery, Henry announced, ignoring Reed. I am talking about mystery. We do not have enough mystery in our lives, men. We don't have any mystery in our lives. Let's change that. I think maybe Reed has a point, Henry, Riley said. Your ideas have a weird way of making him smell really bad, and it's getting harder and harder to always keep downwind of him. Which reminds me, Reed, could you move 3.7 inches to your left? Because the wind has shifted slightly, and I'm catching a whiff. This is different, Henry paused as he watched Reed shift over the picnic table bench. It's not a dangerous or a smelly project. This time we're going to solve a mystery. We're just going to be using our brains. I'm up for anything pain-free and stench-free. Solving a mystery doesn't sound like it could hurt or smell, Reed said hopefully. We're going to solve a murder mystery that's over 100 years old. When I was in the public library doing a social studies report, I found an old journal by a guy who lived in Cleveland in the 19th century. Turns out that the Hanson family who lived out east of town disappeared on May 8, 1887. What do you mean, disappeared? Riley asked, jotting down the date in a small notebook that he had pulled from his pocket. On May 7th, the whole family was seen sitting on the porch waving at a neighbor on his way to town. But on May 8th, they were gone. The man, his wife, their 14-year-old daughter, even the dog. The house was completely empty. No one knows what happened? Nope. The local lawmen investigated, searched the house and the grounds, asked the neighbors, talked to town folk, but no trace of them was ever found. No one ever heard from them again. And we're going to find them, Reed asked. Yep. Now, over 100 years later? Yep. How's that going to work? I have inside information that they didn't have back then, Henry said. And what's that? A note saying where the bodies were hidden. Bodies? Reed drummed his fingers nervously on the tabletop. Notes about bodies are never good. Hardly anything good ever comes from talking about bodies. We're getting back to the dangerous thing again, Henry. Next you'll be talking about worms. Worms that eat bodies and smell like decomposition and rot. Henry pulled an old leather-bound volume from his backpack and held it up. Darrell Dawson, Riley read from the cover, a life book. Dawson was a Clevelander whose descendants donated his journals to the library because he had so diligently recorded what he heard and saw each day, Henry said. But it wasn't the journal that was interesting as much as the note I found inside. Henry thumbed through the pages of his yellow legal pad until he located a loose piece of paper. Here, read this. Reed took it. It's torn and the letters are smudgy, and most of the page is missing, Riley leaned in to see. Read what's there. Bodies too difficult to bury. Deposited in an old powder cavern. Riley stopped. How do you know this has anything to do with the missing family? Read the date at the top of the page. What does it say? May 7th, 1887. And look at this, the cincture, Henry said. Where they say they hid the bodies, an old powder cavern, right? Reed shifted nervously. I don't even know what that means. I read an article about it. During the Civil War, the Northern Army had a storage depot right here in Cleveland, a small cave at the riverbank that was excavated in order to store gunpowder. The headquarters for the supply depot, where the Army officers and clerks worked, was the building that later became the Hanson House. So, the cavern was expanded to run right under the headquarters building so that the Army had access to the gunpowder supplies from the headquarters. After the war, the cavern was shut down and abandoned, and the tunnel that connected the building to the cavern was sealed off, and pretty much everybody forgot about it. Everybody, that is, except the killers of the Hanson family, because that's where they put the bodies. Reed stared at him. You're crazy, you know that, Henry? Stark nuts. But you're coming with me tonight, right? Where? To the old Hanson house, that old stone building past the highway. That place is supposed to be haunted. We're not going to disturb any ghosts, Henry said. We're just going to be looking for the bodies of our murdered family. Oh, is that all? Reed said. Absolutely. We owe it to the victims' men to solve at least part of the mystery of their murders. We have to, Henry dropped his voice, reverently, give peace to the dead and allow them to rest. It's our duty. How are we going to find the tunnel? Riley asked. I dug around at the library and copied an old Army drawing of the hidden entrance to the tunnel in the house. It's behind a wall in the basement. Then you go down a ladder. Henry pulled a scribbled map out of his pocket. I don't know, Henry. This sounds kind of crazy. What do you think, Riley? I want to see what happens. I'm in. Perfect, said Henry. I knew you guys would love this idea. I'm not going anywhere alone, and I'm not doing anything dangerous, and I'm not going near anything that stinks, Reed said. Of course not, Henry said. We'll be as safe as if we stayed home. We're all sticking together and doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. What could possibly go wrong? When you put it that way, it does sound like a good plan, Reed said. Very cool. Riley wrote down safe, and then a question mark in his notebook, but he didn't say anything out loud. A few hours later, they stood outside the Hanson house, which stood on an untended, brushy lot. They were running out of excuses to give their parents for breaking curfew, so each of them climbed out their bedroom window. The sky was black with storm clouds, and drops of rain were beginning to fall. The front door of the house was gone, and half the front wall was caved in. Take these, Riley said, digging into his backpack. I brought Night Commander flashlights. He also pulled out a book about paranormal activity, because brushing up on ghost protocol and etiquette seemed like a good idea prior to entering a bone-laden storage tunnel underneath a haunted house. Riley believed in being prepared for any eventuality. Now, Henry said, according to the drawings I studied, there's a stairway just inside the front door leading to the basement. At the bottom of the steps, we head to the right, to the sealed-in space behind a wall that leads further down to the old cavern underneath the house where the bodies are located. Tell me again, Reed said, why we didn't just call the police and let them know about the bodies you think we're going to find? Because then we wouldn't get any credit for breaking the case, Henry said. And it's not solving the mystery if you just help the police. We have to do it ourselves, or it doesn't count. And it's not a real adventure. Come on. Since there was no front door, they climbed over the threshold and a few tentative feet later found themselves at the top of the stairway to the basement, which was missing more risers than it still had. The ones that still clung between the wall and the disintegrating railing looked wobbly. Henry put his foot on the partially rotted wood of the first step gingerly. This way. Easy now. The instant all three boys were on the stairs, the old square-cut nails that held the stairway together gave out, and what was left of the stairs collapsed. As Riley later wrote in his report, gravity being what it was, the boys dropped like stones to the basement floor, where they expressed their sudden stop in terms of high G-loads that quadrupled their effective weight and brought the load to an astonishing 0.7 tons, after which the rotting basement floor also gave way. They plunged into the cavern below as if they had been shot through a cannon. They came to rest in front of a pile of old bones that stood nearly 8 feet tall and 7 feet wide, gleaming white, horribly white in the glare of their night commander flashlights. "We found the bodies, men," Henry said. "There's a whole lot of bones," Reed said. "How big was that family again?" Riley asked. "Because this seems like more than a husband, wife, a daughter, and a dog. Even if it was a large dog. Even if it was a doggy-saurus." "Oh, man," Reed said. "This is just like that zombie movie about the headless, blood-drinking, flesh-eating corpses. There was a stairway in that old deserted house just like this, and it led down into a pit, just like this, where the zombies kept the bones of their victims after they had drained all the blood and eaten all the flesh. Just like this." For a few seconds they stood silently, Riley trying to count the bones for inclusion in his report, Henry peering past the bone pile, hoping there were other discoveries to be made, and Reed trying to remember what had happened to the people from the zombie movie who found the bodies that the headless, blood-drinking, flesh-eating corpses had eaten, when they heard faintly from the depths of the tunnel that led out of the cavern. "That's exactly the sound," Reed breathed, "that the headless, blood-drinking, flesh-eating corpses made as they zeroed in on their victims." "Don't be," Henry started to say, but he was cut off by the sudden flapping of hundreds of dark wings that filled the pit where they stood. "Bats! It's bats! There's bats flying around my head!" Reed screamed. "Call 911! Bats carry rabies and I'm afraid of giant needles being stuck in my belly if I get rabies." He dropped his night commander flashlight and started blindly running away from the bats, which had been disturbed by the boys' noise and flashlights. Henry and Reed ducked and doused their lights, but remained still and relatively calm. Reed's shrieks bounced off the walls of the tunnel, matching the impact of his body. Blind and terrified in the sudden pitch dark, Reed ran deeper and deeper into the tunnel and slipped on the sudden gooey, slick floor, cartwheeling off the sides of the tunnel before landing in a soft, wet pile that smelled like ammonia and decaying flesh. "I found the zombie poop," he called. "I can't see because the smell is making my eyes water. But I'm okay. I can't hear because my ears are packed full and I'm pretty sure it's leaching into my brain cavity. But I'm okay. It's burning my scalp and feels like my hair is falling out in clumps. But I'm okay. Can you guys come find me and help me out? Because I don't mean to worry anyone or complain. But even though I'm okay, I'm afraid to move right now." "Like he has a gift," Henry said to Riley as they flipped on their flashlights and made their way down the tunnel towards Reed's voice. "No matter where we go or what we do, he's like a compass pointing north when it comes to locating smelly goo." "Extraordinary," Riley agreed. "You worked so hard to come up with these adventures, and somehow it always comes down to Reed and a pile of poop." The bones in the tunnel, Riley later discovered at the library, were buffalo bones that had been brought in by train during the last days of the great buffalo hunts to be ground up as fertilizer. But the bone market suddenly went bust, and looking for a place to store them, the shippers had told their men to put the buffalo skeletons in the old cavern. Riley also investigated and found the Hensons' names on a passenger list for a ship bound for South America, where they had gone to work on a cattle ranch. He put it all in his report. And the zombie poop was really bat poop, which Reed later discovered, while not blinding or deafening or hair removing, did seem to have a horrible odor that everyone had trouble getting used to, although he could no longer smell himself or anything else for that matter. His mother ordered him to bathe in several gallons of tomato juice and insisted on burning his clothes in the backyard. She scheduled an appointment with a therapist so Reed could work through his issues about solid waste. And she spoke on the phone for a very long time with the family doctor about what symptoms to watch for in case Reed had contracted rabies. And then she found a website where she could purchase the unbleached organic cotton briefs that were recommended, along with liberal doses of ointment to soothe the weepy blisters on the insides of his thighs because it proved that he was allergic to bat gunk. Tomorrow we'll start with Chapter 6, Cowboys and Fishermen. See you tomorrow.